All right, welcome folks. Mil-Spec Opsmonkey here. This is going to be your sit rep for Monday, January 31st, 2022, coming to you from the great state of Texas. It's about high noon here right now. And without further ado, we're going to hop on over to Skyglass, where we continue to see this insane number of massed aircraft. Again, this is way higher. Normally we see maybe 90. This is in the thousands. It's pretty crazy. I'm not sure what's going on, if it's a different data feed. I'm just not totally sure yet. But again, these flights, when you look at, and I'm mainly talking about these pink ones, right? All of these, or not pink, but kind of a purple looking color. These flights are flights that are requested by the owner, operator, and or pilots. They fly as NA, they fly as blocked. But they don't want you tracking their movements. And so to see this is a little bit interesting, just because, like I said, normally you see it kind of sprinkled into the military mix. But that's a boatload of people that don't want to be seen, right? And so, these aren't like all military. There are some militaries in there, but you can see these are regular airplanes. So for example, if I were to click on this particular one right here and go to N697PF, which is the tail number for that one, and actually try to research it, I would be told that I cannot track it per the request of the operator. That means you can't get history on it. You can't get anything really outside of that. So it's, again, interesting. So I'm going to turn that off. And then we're going to kind of delve in a little bit further here in Skyglass on the list just to see what our numbers are right now. But this is nothing but military aircraft up at the moment. So there's about 64 that are going to be trainers. We've got 19 air refuelers up, 19 H-60s up, which are going to be your Blackhawks. And then 19 C-130s. 10 C-17s, 5 C-1 other variant of C-130s, and so it's a pretty heavy day, for those particular type of aircraft. And then of course I do see we have this one up. This is going to be your Club 22 or Gordo 14. The interesting thing is I did see both Club and Gordo up. For those not familiar with this particular aircraft, it is actually Night Watch. Which is if I kind of expand that a little bit, you can see it looks a lot like Air Force One, but it is basically a doomsday aircraft. If there was ever an outbreak or any kind of a war, whether it be nuclear or something else, where the U.S. was under attack, POTUS would jump on board that, as would Secretary of Defense, probably Chief of Staff, etc., and that would be their airborne if they weren't in a bunker somewhere. Or that would get them to a bunker. Now, it does have some type of EMP capabilities where it can block some type of an EMP event, but it's basically kind of like doomsday, exactly what it says. So you can see quite a few heavies up in this general area, central U.S. Total numbers 306. That's about 50 higher than usual. I do see a couple B-52s up. We've got one flying right here. Kind of just south of Topeka, and then we got this one just north of Abilene. Those are coming out of Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport. We do have a handful of Sentries that are up as well. Typically we see that because these guys are helping with the congestion of everything in the area, really relative to the trainer activity, which is actually kind of light. If you take a look at what we've got here today, there's Gordo 14. Again, that's your doomsday bird. People not familiar with that, let me just kind of pull this up so you can get a better eye on it. Again, it looks kind of like it is often mistaken as Air Force One when it rolls in, but it is not, okay? But that one's running across Texas. That's Wichita Falls right here, Denton, Dallas-Fort Worth area on this side. Looks to be headed southbound. Tankers, like I said, we got a lot of refuelers up. We've got a lot of heavies up in terms of movement of supply chain stuff. You can see this on the East Coast, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit more. We do have a lot of troop movement. I think we are fully engaged in this, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. I think you let Russia do its thing, and we're getting sucked into this. And it's all because, like I pointed out before, both Hunter and Flashbang are owned by the Ukraine and by China because they've been blackmailed. So kind of hard to say, but it is not good for our country for sure. Okay. All right, let's get over here to Flashbang's schedule real fast. You guys can see a couple things going on. This is one we need to pay attention to. It's the National Governors Association. I say that because if he's ever going to roll out plans to do something in coordination with state government, this is how, you know, he's going to basically leverage them in these meetings. And so no telling what shenanigans they're up to. Every time I see the governors all assembling in the White House, it can't be good. So we definitely need to stay frosty. And then we got this dude who I can't pronounce his name, but some highness from Qatar. Okay. Looks like he's in there at 2 o'clock. And so probably there to get his check as well. Now, let's get over here real fast to flight radar. I just want to point out, we haven't looked at the volcanic activity in a while, but I will show you this one here going hot in Russia. That's the ash alert. That's a pretty large ash cloud in terms of area coverage. Looks like the one in Japan's still popping, and the one down here in, I don't know, Terabatu, I don't know what that is, but that one's popping. And then we've only got 3 showing right now down through Central and South America, which is a lower number. It's about 2 lower than usual. Okay. All right, let's get on over to the other items of interest. We look at some of the other aircraft. This is... this one flew on Friday, but I just want to point it out because I didn't catch it until we were in our Q&A, and so I kind of missed it for the main board. But this is an R-135 flying just north of Venezuela and Colombia, and so it came down out of like Lincoln, Nebraska, rolled into this area. The reason they're doing this, remember, this is a spy craft, R-135, is, remember, Putin was just talking about putting troops and Navy fleet and a bunch of other stuff here in Venezuela. So it looks like he's got a good relationship there. He's also said he's going to put them right here in Cuba. So this is the second time we've seen them actually run through this area. They're probably grabbing some data to see if he's actually putting his money where his mouth is, which he probably is because the guy doesn't bluff. All right, Brio 68. So this is one we've been watching. This is actually a really cool aircraft. Rolling in and out of Romania. This took place this morning. This is the Black Sea. You can see those shoestring loops. Just to kind of give you a little bit of back history on this and as to how busy this thing has been, I'll kind of show you. This is the video, or not the video, but the snapshot over time of this aircraft pretty much the last 3 months. Running, you can see it's all the way up here in just south of Latvia, over Poland. It's over the Black Sea. Been very busy in the region. Again, this is a U.S. asset. It's a spy craft, and so, but I just wanted to point out the fact that this thing has flown many trips for quite some time now, at least the last 90 days, gathering data. And so this one here is again today, all right? And so the reason they're doing that, they're looking at the ships that are out in this region, you know, military assets. They're looking at troop movements, everything else. Now, this is just south. This is Ukraine right in here. And so Black Sea, you know, it's kind of open kimono, right? He's going to come rolling right in. He's already got a lot of activity and assets in here as well, okay? All right. Now, my understanding is Russia has told their folks they need to be out of all the NATO countries by February 5th. So that's going to be, you know, you're about 5 days out, which would indicate that he does have intentions on going hot. He expects us to go south pretty quickly. So just a heads up, that, you know, just a data point, I guess. Now, here's the other one, too. This is the Royal Air Force. I've been watching these guys move back and forth. Now, what I don't understand is why these flights keep coming in. We've seen at least half a dozen of them here in the United States. I don't know if they've got troops deployed over here that they're gathering and bringing them back, you know, repositioning assets, or what's going on, but very active into Europe, even down here on the west coast of Africa. But this is kind of an interesting one. Anytime you see them coming back into the U.S., kind of makes you wonder what they are up to. Again, that's about a half a dozen UK troops coming inbound. or going outbound. But that's a half a dozen flights. And so you don't really know if you got butts in the seat on this one, or if they're empty, coming in and getting some guys that were here doing some NATO training or something, right? All right, now let's get over here. This is another, these are the U.S. camber flights, just to show you they are just racked and stacked over Europe into Saudi Arabia and that central area, okay? Again, they won't really show the destination. We already know that they're pulling the trigger on it because Biden has mentioned it several times. So I'm not really showing you anything that you're not already reading or hearing in the news. He is definitely moving troops abroad for this. Like I said, he's getting sucked in. We're getting sucked in because of him, okay? All right, this is Biggs Army Airfield. I just want to keep eyes on this one. There's some interesting data points here, and as I get in a little further peeling this banana, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is a kind of a weird thing. Now we've got some arrivals coming in. This one's coming in from Robert Gray, which is Fort Hood down in central Texas there. We've got two coming in from Pope. That's Fayetteville, North Carolina. All right, those are arrivals. These are commercial flights. And then we've got them departing. This one's headed back to Tucson, these spa flights. That's their home base operation, so I don't know if they're going back empty. They're pulling folks over there. I'm not really sure, okay? And then this Omni up to Anchorage, and this one here over to Baltimore, that's definitely troops being moved, 100%. Those are both flights. Atlas Air and Omni are both very big troop movers, okay? So, but let's point this out. We're going to dig a little deeper into Pope. So Pope Army Airfield, if we take a look at what's going on there now, I don't know if they've had some stuff going on at Fort Bragg, because that's this location really in that general vicinity. But you've got, you know, I think it's 82nd and 101st Airborne rolling out of there. It's a big training location as well for how to jump out of stuff school. But these guys, you look here, you got the spa flights rolling from arrivals coming in from Tucson, one from Richmond. You see this Southwest Airlines coming in from another military base. There's a U-2 coming in from NASA. I thought that was kind of interesting. But this was all over the weekend. All right, that's a lot of activity, very similar to Biggs, right? And so, not totally sure, but I will tell you this was popped up. Biden says that U.S. troops are heading to Eastern Europe in the near term from Fort Bragg. So all the soldiers there are on alert, and that would be a pretty good indicator. But keep in mind, too, we did have another data point that we need to kind of process into this, and that is the fact that the Secretary of Homeland Security was just at that same location a week ago. And then all of a sudden we see this increase in movement. Typically, they're not tied to military assets. They're tied to that immigration piece, and that's the part that concerns me, okay? I don't know what's going on there, but you would think if we had troops on ground, they would pretty much, somebody would be squeaking some intel in terms of there's something going on here that ain't right, unless they're very isolated. So not really sure, although I will tell you, when I watched the last bus leave up in Indiana, and all the troops that were out by the side of the road waving to all the Afghanis as they left the base, you know, like they were their best friends. That was a bit concerning. So anyway, let's take a look here. This is actually Kiev Airport in Ukraine. As long as this board is looking like this, we don't have too much to worry about. I say that because once this thing goes hot, all of these flights, that airport is going to get shut down because of fear of actually something getting shot down, okay? And so as long as we see this board's racked and stacked here like this, I don't think we're got anything to worry about, okay? Same thing with this over in the marine data area. You start looking at all the boats and vessels that are in the Black Sea and coming up in here. Now, one thing I will tell you, normally, this is all Ukraine, and this is kind of along that border of Ukraine, but this is a waterway that runs up through here. Typically, I see a lot of boats in here. And right now, 0 boats, all right? Which is very unusual, okay? Because normally they are rolling right up in this area. I think, actually, you know what? That is not a waterway. Let me back up here. Or is it? Really hard to tell. No, that's not a waterway, sorry. It is other, there's another waterway here. Sorry about that. This area, this is all waterway stuff. This is all up in here is waterway stuff. So, but I typically see boats all the way up into the Ukraine and around it, and we don't see that. You know, so that I think is an interesting data point. Again, these boats, as we look at these, the round ones are parked. The ones that look like arrows are actually moving. And so the reds are oil tankers and the greens are cargo ships. All right. And so somewhere mixed in there is probably some military stuff, assets, but we don't see those. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's get over here to this one. This is actually going to be our Swift air flights for today. Now, we're kind of dovetailing. I want to show you some data points, and this is very concerning because we've had this theory as we've watched in the past, all of these military-age males come into our country, and then we see the camps getting kind of emptied out, and we see all this flight, flurries of flights running across the United States, down into South America. We think that people are getting exported, you know, because they're illegals and they're part of, you know, embedded into this prison system. But the stuff that I'm going to show you now is this one ought to have all of our attention because this looks very much like a military process. You'll see when these guys are standing in line, it almost looks like MEPS. If any of you guys have ever been pulled into the military, volunteered for it, and you've processed through a MEPS location, you will see, you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. But these are the flights. You'll just notice they're headed from Harrisburg International up here in Pennsylvania down to Valley. That's a border town, right? El Paso over to Houston. Let me see if we've got any others that are, you know, Sky Harbor to Houston. A lot of stuff moving into Houston. But check this out. This is the one that really got me. This is Laura Loomer fan club. But they were talking about a video that came up in Maitland, Florida, and I'm just going to hit the button here. We're not going to listen to sound, but I want you to take note of these are all military age males. I see 0 females in this mix, other than this lady that's taking video. But these guys, I mean, if you've ever processed through MEPS. Man, it looks a lot like a bunch of dudes that have just been volunteered for our military. You got the bus lined up, but evidently these guys are being dropped off in front of an extended stay hotel in Maitland, and they're given preloaded credit cards, hotel rooms, and clothing. But that is all military age males, okay? That should be very concerning because if there is some type of a secondary army or something going on, the fact that we've got all of these bases, I'll freeze it right there so you can kind of get a good look. That's all males, military age males. All right. But when you got this going on in our country, you got a lot of flights happening. I think we ought to all be paying close attention and definitely be keeping your powder dry because something is not right with this. My spidey senses tell me there's something at play here. Okay. It's just, you know, just to kind of confirm that, I will show you this. This is the World Airways flights. They are not on now. Okay, so they're off. So we had 2 flights today, World Airways. I believe that those guys are actually flying people out of the country. I think that is, but it's 2 flights. Nothing major. One of them went down here to the Dominican Republic. The other was down here in Central America. I think that airline is indeed being utilized by the U.S. Marshal Services. Okay. However, we look at this map. And then we read these articles where you've got a Holocaust survivor that says never again is now unless we all resist. And they are talking about, now this is a person that went into one of the camps, and they are talking about everything they're seeing go on today is reminiscent of exactly what happened with Hitler in Nazi Germany in World War II. Okay, and as I've pointed out in the past, these military installations that are being stood up for immigration, are reminiscent of exactly what happened in World War II, where we had the Japanese, Italians, and Germans basically all being put into these working camps here in the United States. But now we're at double the number of military installations. And on top of that, all of these yellows are part of a giant system it's a prison system, basically. It's where they are bringing people through and processing them through our detention centers. okay? And they are immigrant-centric detention centers, okay? So let that kind of sink in. This is very alarming. Again, all military-age males, there's a pretty good amount of them right there. Where are they going? What are they doing? I guarantee they're not down there working in the fields or bumping into restaurants, okay? That right there should have our red flags going. Everybody should be really paying close attention, because if it's happening here, it's probably happening elsewhere. Are these guys being trained through our military? Is that why we see these flights going back and forth from Pope Air Force Base to Biggs Army Airfield? Is it because, you know, they're basically, you know, going through basic training? I don't know. But I don't have a good feeling that they're not going to be used against us, okay? So, again, we're going to keep our eye on this. If we see more of this, we're definitely going to be talking about it and pointing it out, okay? Okay, let's break away from that for a minute. Let's get over here to Guantanamo Bay. I just want to point out we did have two aircraft come in over the weekend. That was a troop rotation. One of them was a C-130, not showing on the board. Somebody actually sent me the FlightAware screenshot of assets being moved to and from Guantanamo Bay. Not uncommon, but again, remember, those numbers are very elevated in terms of military police being rotated in and out. Usually it's a 3-month rotation, but the amount of police that we have, given the ratio of 9/11 folks that are there, doesn't add up. I mean, it's like, it's probably going to be a 10 to 1, you know, 10 military police to 1 prisoner if you go on that ratio. So that would indicate that, yes, we indeed have other things going on down there we don't know anything about, okay? This flight right here out of Miami was a out-of-sequence bird, came in on Saturday. I don't know what that's for. They could be ramping up for next month. We'll have to look on the calendar to see if anything's been canceled or if it's still going for the 9/11 hearings. But this right here is that's troop rotation coming in, I believe. Coming out of Biggs Army Airfield, again, that's a national cargo bird. If it's not troops, then that could be people being sent to this other location, as we've talked about here as well. Could very well be that, right? The Migrant Operations Center that's there at Guantanamo Bay. So, again, don't know unless you got crowdsourcing where people are actually eyes on and they see it, or they're hearing it from their family that's in the military. We have no way of really knowing. Just know that if this thing ever goes hot, and if anything that we're speculating here is accurate, like this, our time to react is going to be very small, okay? So, again, need to stay frosty on this one, folks, okay? All right, let's get over here to this next. This is actually SatFlare. This is our next inbound sky event. This is actually going to be a Dragon CRS-24 debris. And so what that is, you guys remember, the Dragon's actually the capsule that carries the astronauts up and back. It docked with the ISS. But every once in a while you get some debris field or something that comes off of it that they're tracking that's going to re-enter. Don't know what exactly that is, but for those not familiar, this is what the Dragon looks like. It could be this back piece. I'm not really sure. But this comes back to Earth. There's probably some stuff that was floating around out there, and that's what's coming back down. Now, that is due to roll back in, I want to say the 2nd. Let me get up here to the thing. Yeah, that's going to be February 1st. So tomorrow around 4:30, it's going to start to re-enter the atmosphere. And so if you want to watch that, you can go over to satflare.com and actually just track everything that's up. It's pretty amazing. Good site, okay? All right, so last thing, let's talk about N721AL. This is actually our DOJ, aka FBI, on the move. Looks like they just flew out to Wichita, Kansas for a stop, and they're now headed back westbound again. That came out of Washington, D.C. this morning. So if you look at the other leg of this, that's a little Dash 8 coming out of Manassas. We can kind of see here. Landed 1 hour, 4 minutes ago in Wichita, coming out of the Senior Living Center Brown Zone. Landed here, and now they're going to continue on westbound. Don't know if they dropped the crew off here in Wichita or if they're continuing west, but we'll keep our eye on it. Again, DOJ, it's kind of like their little go team being deployed, okay? And then this is C202, which I thought was interesting. He was in California 2 days ago. Now he's in Paris, France. All right. And that is your Secretary of Homeland Security. So why is he in France? I don't really know. Do we have somebody we caught? Bad guy? Maybe. Again, not 100% on that. Now let's, but we'll continue to watch him. Again, you know, interesting that he was in, down at Pope in Fayetteville, North Carolina, just a week and a half ago. Now he's over in France. So, okay. Now let's get over here real fast. I did miss the TFR aspect of it. So I'm pull up my radar. We can just kind of get this. Yeah, we did just have an earthquake in Oklahoma. It's not showing on here, but it was a 4.8 magnitude that just popped within the last hour, I think. We've got some interesting weather coming through across the United States. I think we're expecting snow here this Thursday, or a big ice event. Hopefully it's not a repeat of last year. But if we look at the TFRs, everything looks to be kind of in the normal zone. This is some mine blasting up here. Senior Living Center permanent, that's always there. George Bush permanent, always there. We do have, looks like a security one down near Austin at Fort Hood. Got our border stuff, space operations, and then of course we've got a red box over here on space ops. So that may be, they're about to go hot. So, all right, there's that. Now this line that you see running across the map right here is actually International Space Station. So if you were to follow that around, you can see, you can track it. Actually, there's a couple earthquakes here. There it is right there on the map. So it's kind of a cool little tool. And then this, Australia, I don't know what the heck's going on here. These are floods and gale force winds, and it looks like they've got a lot of weather activity going on down there in Down Under. All right, I'll back away from that. Let's get back over here to our flat map. Like I said, this area, central U.S. right now, in terms of heavies, seem to be very active. I would imagine there's a lot of activity coming and going from, as we looked at, Fort Biggs and other areas, but pretty wild. We'll continue to monitor everything as it goes on. If anything happens, breaking news-wise, we'll bust it out. But keep your eyes open, man. This military-aged male theory seems to have some legs on it. We've looked at that and discussed it in the past, and then we just kind of watched it go away. We watched a lot of flights moving around the United States, and then we watched them leave. But when you start to see them going from military installation back and forth, and then you see them being processed almost like they are doing a MEPS kind of thing, definitely need to be paying attention to that, because that's not good. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it for Monday. So we'll be back on Wednesday, and as we inch closer to war with the Ukraine and Russia, and see what happens. You guys keep your powder dry out there. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.